Hi all, Jean here. How is everybody doing today? I hope you're good. It's a little wintry outside, but apart from that, it's just nice and tranquil in many ways. Um, yeah, yesterday um I lost my mic. I lost my mic attachment, and I really do not know where it fell. And yeah, so which is really lovely because you know what? Today I'm jumping right into regret. And so it's actually almost fitting that I lost that. I lost my little thingy yesterday. And when I say I'm jumping into regret, my question to you is, do you live with regrets or do you live without regret? For me, I choose to live without regret. And what does that mean, making a choice to live without regret? Exactly as I say, I choose to live without regret. Meaning that if I screwed up in the past, or if there was something that I failed at, or there is something that I think I should do a lot better, or a relationship that I've exit from, when I look back, I make a choice not to regret that because I realize in life, we have choices and we can spend our lifetime choosing to regret the things that happen in our life. We literally can do that. We can spend a lifetime with regret. And I didn't go in and look up the word regret today, not at all. But for me, in my own opinion, regret is a word that comes very laden. It's very heavy. When people speak on regret, it's like, oh, I regret this and I regret that. And, but why? Why? When we speak on regret, it comes with such a heavy load, so I decided, you know what, I think that we can choose. So I'm telling you today, choose to live without regret. How is that for like a direct thing, right? Choose to do it. Choose to look back on your life and see, or ask yourself the question, when I look back, if I had made this choice, what would happen? Or if I make this choice, what would happen? Here is the absolute truth. When you look back, the choice that you making a different one back then, you don't know the result of that. You don't know what result you are going to get if you did make a different choice. We really do not know the result. Someone may tell you, well, if you did that, X, Y, and Z may have happened. In the Caribbean, sometimes it's always interesting when I go on holidays, or when I talk to my now husband, and because this most of this is, I'm going to talk about my ex, not my now. I didn't even know I was going to have a second husband, much less having a first one. But usually things that happen in the Caribbean, you would be like, oh, I'm going to Canada, and somebody would say, oh, why are you going to Canada? Why don't you just go to America? They don't know, because America is X, Y, and Z. No, they don't know, what your experience is going to be. They don't really know that. You might say, oh, I'm going to Trinidad to get something that I need for X, Y, and Z. And they would be like, yeah, but you know what? Going to St. Vincent is better. Have they been to St. Vincent? No. Have they been to Trinidad? No. But then they become the expert on these things. However, I am 63 and I can be an expert on choosing to not regret your life. Life would be easier, life would be more manageable, you would have less worry because you're not sitting around worrying about all the shit you did in your past. Your past is your past. And I've heard some people say, I think, many years ago, I heard Steve Jobs say, you can only you can only look back on your life in hindsight. Hence, you need to live it. And hence, if there is something that you have done that you regret because you feel that you made a wrong choice, how do you know that? How do you know that that wasn't the right choice? The truth is, you're choosing to have regret. Have you ever thought about that? That the regret that you have is a choice that you have made. It's not. Um, it's a choice that you have made. So I'll give you some example here, right? I'll give you some example. For example, um, when I left my husband the first time, this is bugging me. I'm going to bring it down. I'm just going to take this down one, just about here. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Did I regret that? Nah, because I'm not editing, so you and I have to live with this right now. But just so you know, I am actually learning to edit. It's gonna take me a while because right now I'm just a messy person doing it because the way my brains work, right? As with everything. But anyways, right now, so going back to my first, when I first got divorced, me and my ex, we lived in Banff, Alberta, and I'm pointing this way because, I believe that's where Banff is. But anyways, it's just 20 minutes down the road. And we bought a beautiful condo together. It wasn't him buying the condo, and without me, it was both of us starting from ground zero. And to tell you the story, I can even go back to where this story began. And I actually did forget that. So me and my ex my husband at the time, who's my ex, in 2001, I believe, that was when the trade center, when they, the airplanes and stuff went into the trade center in America, 9/11 that everybody talk about. That was a huge crisis, right? At that time, we all thought when we were, wherever you were, when you were looking at the World Trade Center being totally um exploding, you know where you were. I was at work. I was at work. It was one of those, I cannot tell you exactly. I can't remember the day, what day it was itself. It was 9/11, but I can't remember what day. But I do know that I was at work. It was a day in the week. And I remember to being called to look at what was going on the news. And by the time I got home, me and my husband, and at the time we weren't yet married, we were just together. We got married in Grenada at the beginning of 2002, I think. Yeah, we got married at the January of 2002. So that was a number of years ago. And anyways, we saw the disaster. We always was playing around with this dream to go and live somewhere where we can have a chicken tractor, kind of a garden. We wanted to do something in agriculture. So we moved to Grenada. Please know that my husband at the time was from Quebec, from French Canada here, so he was a white dude from French, from Quebec, which is French, the French part of Canada. And we moved to Grenada to do this, chicken tractor to raise chicken and sell chicken and to have a nice little farm. We thought it was a good thing to do at the time. And we got there, we had certain amount of money put aside that we didn't want to spend. We went around, we tried to, um, you know, buy a vehicle. We got our chicken There was so many things in that happened to us while we were there. When we bought the chicken, because you go to the town and you go and buy, you order your chicken, right, from a company. And when you order it, normally you come back and pick it up another time because they're not just hanging around there. When the chicken come in, you come to pick it up. When we go to pick up our chicken, we found out that they give it to one of their friends. And if you ever lived in the Caribbean or you live in Grenada, because this is a wide thing, we live in a smaller island. Normally, people give, they would do things where it's who you know. And I'll leave it as that. It so happened we had to start buying our own chicken from Barbados and get it shipped to Grenada, which was, had to go through customs. It was a lot. It was a lot. So, plus, we were trying to buy a car, and the bank would not loan us any money, and so it started to get discouraging. But we still start the farm, right? My husband at the time, he built these beautiful chicken tractor from the bamboo in our yard because we had bamboo growing in our yard. Oh my God, you should see the house we lived in. We were living in this beautiful, small, old Victorian type house, Caribbean type, Victorian type house, with the skeleton keys to get into the house, and we were overlooking the ocean. We live in the countryside, in one of the fishing village in the countryside, and it was just divine. It was divine. And so to bring in more of an income, while my husband at the time, while he built a chicken tractor and we get the chicken and put them in, and the idea of a chicken tractor is that you have the tractor one place and you put the chicken in, and after a while you move it to the next place, so all the feces of the chicken become part of the fertilizing of the ground so you can plant your garden, right? I hope I explained that properly. And he was good at that. He was like a master at that. I'm sorry I don't have photos to show you, but that man was very good at building things. And so he was at home, building the chicken tractor, creating composting pile and doing all of that. And I got myself a job in a hotel in Grenada, being a service, attendant to all the guests, guest service attendant. So I was attendant to the guests and stuff, and not cleaning. Honestly, I was receiving guests when they come out of the taxi, taking them to their room, making sure they were happy, sitting with them on the bar, checking them in, and doing things like that. So I had a really good job, paying me very well. But as it so happened, we had packed up because, and we did it in a hurry. September, 9/11 happened and it was September, but by December we were already in Grenada. And by January we got married, and so our plan was to stay there for a while. We moved to live there. And but within 6 months of being there, we decided to come back to Canada because life was harder than we expected to be. We didn't get that vehicle we were, trying to buy. My husband at the time didn't really like the fact that I was the one working and bringing home the money, but he was doing more work than me. Honestly, trying to start a farm is no easy feat, especially when all the neighbor thinks that there is a mixed couple living here and they probably have money, so they come to us for almost everything, especially our chicken, because at the time we were growing the chicken and selling the chicken every Saturday in the market. But children used to come to our door and say, "Mommy said, if you can give me a chicken," and she would pay later X, Y, and Z. So we practically, we practically were giving away all our hard work, and plus, my ex, my husband at the time, he really didn't understand do not walk in the hot sun. You get up at 6 in the morning, you walk until 10 and you stop and then you rest until late evening. But he was walking in the middle of the sun, and that used to just take him out, you know. He's a hardworking man, so he always wanted to be out there walking and he wouldn't listen, and he had a bad back. So on top of all of that, half the time he was on his back somewhere on the floor in the in the living area, you know. Yeah. So, anyways, we make the decision ultimately to come back to Canada, and that is just a version of the story. You know, that's the shortest version of that story. We make the decision to come back to Canada, and when we arrived back, we were living nowhere. And this is why I'm telling the story about regret. Um, I didn't regret coming back. You know, it wasn't working the way we wanted it to work. So we came back. But the best thing about that story is that we actually went there. There was so many beautiful things that happened while we were there. We got married on the beach barefoot, from 9 a.m. in the morning, on almost a private beach with just our family and friends and a real pastor, because I wanted to have a real pastor. And we partied. The wedding went from 9 a.m. in the morning until 3 a.m., you know, the next morning. We party all day, we eat all day, we had food, we had drinks. People were coming and going from a wedding like it was, I don't know, you know. Um, it was what it is. It was just beautiful, right? So there's a lot of beautiful thing that happened. Even my walk, I was enjoying my walk. Huzzy was enjoying what he was doing, but we really realized that to make it there and to have a living there and to grow a farm was not feasible at the time. It wasn't going to work out. So by July, we were back in this country here in Canada, literally. And when we arrived back, so that I chose, there was nothing to regret. We had dogs we were feeding. The community was vibrant. I mean, there was nothing to regret. We came back, and when we arrived back, of course, we had no money, nowhere to live. So we live in somebody with in a friend basement with a whole bunch of people. That didn't last long, about a week. Um, then you know we leave that kind of situation because it was too crowded, and went to another friend's backyard in a tent. And while we in the tent in the backyard, did I see a snake or did I see a scorpion? Either one of them, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't really ideal. So we end up leaving that and we end up moving to the YWCA, where we live for about another 6 months. But within that 6 months at the YWCA, because we came back to Canada in 2002. And by the end of 2002, my ex was working double time in, you know, in one of the cement places here, so he was making money, and I worked at the Y, so my rent was being paid straight from there. If you know the YWCA in Banff here in Alberta, they actually do have housing. They have, you know, low income housing and residential housing for people who needs it. So you can go there and, you know, put your name on a list and you can get in and go there and do that. So, anyways, we stayed there for about 6 months and really worked. We went to the bank, figure out how, you know, what is the best way to get a mortgage to buy a house. Just imagine we are broke. We are not living anywhere. We are living at the YWCA, people. But we actually went to find out, you know, how to get a mortgage, how to buy a home there, and what it is we have to do. When we left the Y, we went for a more private place. We were so fortunate. We got this nice little cabin, beautiful little cabin, old little cabin, really terribly old inside and, you know, cabin to live in. And but it was $500. So you know what we did? We walk in, we strip everything, paint the whole place, paint the floor red, build a nice little kitchen, move in. I lost friends over that. Did I regret that? No. It was one of the best time in our life. We used to hang out outside, and you know, we had actually a kitchen garden because my ex, he used to be, well, he still is, he's in horticulture. He's horticulture. So he's a grower. He grew things. He was very good at growing things. So anyway, I'm saying all of that to say, by the time we got to the little cabin, um, we were now actually we stayed at the cabin for roughly another 6 months, I think, not even 6 months, because by the middle of 2003, we were already looking for our place to live. We were already looking for our place to buy. And as it so happened, we found this beautiful condo before the end of 2003, and we move in at the beginning of 2004. So let's just recap that for you a little bit. So by the end of 2002, we were actually living at the YWCA, literally kind of broke, but we understood that we had to hunker down and apply, put money aside to buy a house, or for the down payment. We understand our assignment, and we did our assignment. And then from there, we went to a cheaper place. And then from that cabin, we found a job where we were taking care of an apartment building. So we both moved in to take care of the apartment building. We both had about 4 jobs. I was working up at the BAM Center. I was working, taking care of the apartment building, cleaning and doing those things. And my ex, he was the maintenance person doing all the things, and we were living in the apartment, so our rent was even cheaper. Our rent went down to about $300, so we were still saving. And I'm also saying this to look at the pattern that I have just showed you. We were broke. We did the thing. We stay in, we weren't too big or too rich to stay with our friends in a basement. We weren't too rich to stay in a tent in a backyard. We weren't too rich to go to the YWCA, or the things people are always ashamed of. Oh, I'm too ashamed, I cannot do that. We had no shame. We do what we had to do. We bought a very old car. So when I am saying that, when got divorced, eventually, I'm just going to leave this story right there and bring you to the fact that we had our condo, and then 17 years later, we got a divorce. And I left him with with the condo. I left him with the home, right? I'm the one was leaving. I packed up. He did tell me I can stay, and but I didn't like that idea. I felt like I needed to heal. Honestly, I just felt like I had a lot of healing to do, and I needed to heal. And when I left the marriage, and so I left them there. So now, do I have regret that I don't own a condo in Banff? No, I don't. Because I make a choice. I choose not to regret owning that condo. I choose not to regret that. And I did, ultimately went to the bank to see if the bank is going to give me money to, stay. The bank had no interest. I'm a black woman in a very white world. I wasn't really making, my income on its own wasn't enough to run the condo to pay the mortgage as per the bank. um I may have had to have roommates and all the different things. Yeah, now the apartment, you might say, well, Jean, now the apartment or the condo went up in value, and it's probably triple, and I'm sure that it is about triple what it was in 2002. We are in 2026 now. So obviously, it have grown exponentially, because out here everything is at a high rate. Do I regret that? No, no. I'll tell you why. I don't know how it was going to turn out for me. Plus, he did pay me back then. He paid me out half of what, because it was half of it was mine. So he did pay me half of it. And I guess with him paying me half of it, that means that, he had to really, because he had to take money out of that home to pay me. So his mortgage probably was higher. So, let's face it, it's still, so my point is, I don't regret it because I don't know what it was going to be for me. I don't know how it was going to work out for me. What I do know is that I had a very amazing, beautiful, independent, free kind of life after that. I got to travel. I got to go to Grenada anytime I want. I didn't have to ask anyone. I got to heal, like literally heal. I got to move from place to place. I my independence went from like about here to all the way there. Just imagine, I didn't even know how to put gas in my car. And when I left, I was putting gas in my car. I didn't know how to, to lift the bonnet and, put antifreeze. And I can do all of this stuff now on my own. As a matter of fact, I can fix a washing machine. I can fix a faucet. I can do tiling. And those are just little things I only learned this year. So my point is, do I regret not having that apartment? No, no. Because the money that I got, I did buy myself a house. Yes, getting a mortgage on my own was still a bit of a challenge, but I did get some people to join with me to have I got my son and a friend of mine's to, come onto my mortgage so that we can buy a house that which we sold last year, which ended up paying my debt, mind you, because I had debt and he had debt at the time. I don't know. But what I do know is that no, I don't regret that. Because now I have a really lovely new husband. And am I going to regret that too? I don't know. I don't think so. Am I going to regret all of these things in 10 years from now? It's a possibility. But today I don't, because I make a choice. And I think if I make a choice today in my present not to regret all these things, it's a possibility 10 years from now, my mindset, my awareness of life would actually have me understood that it's not a regret. Failure is not a regret. Failure is not even about you. Failure is about performance. But we live in an environment where we tell ourselves, oh my God, I fail. I need to regret that. I regret marrying this man because look at what happened. Why would you regret marrying someone that allow you when you leave to have exponential growth? Why? Yes, it's a possibility sometimes we hook up with abusers and all of that, and I get it. I understand that as women there are times when we would be, we have people that abuse us, people that gaslight us, not narcissistic kind of people, all these. Yeah, you get into relationship where you're in with an abuser and it's hard to leave, and this is a hard thing. But when you leave that relationship, you know, a lot of the time you leave it regretting that you were ever with this man. You were regretting that you ever did this and you ever buy this and you ever, like, what is there? Like, dude, you left the person. You don't have to regret that. you know you don't have to even regret doing it because you know something different. And even if back then you had made a different choice, you don't know how it was going to work out. We don't know how our different choice is working out. So to really, come back to this question, I always ask myself, um you know the question I say to ask yourself is like, can you live without regret? Can I live without regret? And for me, living without regret means that I'm going to try the thing. I'm going to try the thing, even if I fail the thing. And it's okay to try the thing. I'm going to leave this thing. I'm going to do this new thing because this is how I live. I'm not going to stay stagnant here. I'm not telling you to leave your husband. I'm not telling you. No, what I'm saying is that remember that whatever choice you make, you don't know what the other choice was going to be. You don't know how that choice was going to come out. So why are you regretting this one? Because this one, could give you the similar result or worse result. Like, there's nothing to regret. You can make a choice to live without that and stop carrying that heavy weight. And because regret is about harboring, you carry something heavier. You carry, it's like a weight. It's a weight as well. You're carrying a weight. It may not feel like hurt or pain or or trauma, but I think it's all those things and anger as well, especially how you would hold it. Some people hold regret like it is a medal. Like it's like, look at me, look at my scar, look at how big this regret is. It's like a medal, it's like around my neck. I cannot take it off. And the truth is, you have a choice. You can choose to take it off. You can choose to do that. Recently, yeah, very, very recently, as I start my 60, I went back to university. And yes, I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to be I want to a psychotherapist. I wanted to be a psychotherapist. Psychotherapist. Forgive me. I'm not going to be editing this out because, I'm just learning to edit now. And so, I went to school. I would have regretted like the choice. You see, I choose to go and apply and get into university, and I did. And but I spent 2 semesters and I quit. Now, do I regret going? No. Do I regret quitting? No. What is wrong with my tongue and my word today? I don't regret either one of them because I actually wanted to go and see what it was all about. I realized that I didn't like the fact that I had to study night and day. I would study in the morning, go to school, study all day, come home, have something to eat, study, take a shower, study, go to sleep, wake up, study, get dressed, study, my head was always in a book. Plus, I developed anxiety. I have never had anxiety in my whole life. And in my 60s, I end up having anxiety because I was in a group with young people that is running around with a very high, intense anxiety rate. It was terrible. My nervous system was almost shredded. I didn't like it. I didn't like that. I felt like I never had money either because I'm in school. Like, where am I getting the money from? And I didn't want to go into a whole bunch of debt, which I started, the process of just getting into that school alone. There was nobody. And plus, nobody tells you that when you're a certain age, you have to learn how to learn again. You have to learn how to learn inside of this patriarchy structure. And I really, really, really didn't like the intensity of how things has to be now, 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 now. Like every week you have 10 exams, 10 things to do. Plus, on top of that, you have some presentation to do and someone telling you, no, 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 no. I really like space. I like having space. And I put myself in an environment where there was no space. It was too male driven. And I decided I'm not going to regret. I'm just going to leave after my second semester, after my year. And guys, I did, my grades went up, in my second semester, way up, but I still quit. Anyways, I'm going to leave this video right here. I hope you got something from it. Choose to live without regret. When you look back, the areas you think you would regret, choose to live without regret. Because just imagine that whatever choice you make, it didn't really matter because you don't know whether or not it was going to work out. So, guys, subscribe to my channel, like my channel, and yeah, and share this with your friends, right? There's no reason. Yeah, have a share with your friends. And here is what I'm going to leave you with. Do less and be more of who you are. Okay? Do less, be more of who you are. I'm going to move forward to stop my video. You can turn off, you can get off right here on this Mac because I'm moving forward until I learn to edit, which I'm doing right now. It's going to take me a little bit of time, but I'm okay because I'm still in my probational era. Like and subscribe to my channel. I love you guys. Thanks for watching.